company which does product engineering. So we are into outsourced product development business. We work with the ISVs, all product different companies, product development companies. So my talk today is going to be choosing your pearl in JOcean. So I was talking to a couple of guys outside, and the first thing they asked me is JOcean a new framework or a library which you have written? So definitely it's not a library or framework which I have written. So I look at JavaScript and the number of framework options that are available, and I see that it's a ocean now. So it's very important for you to choose the right technology, right framework, depending on your business context. So that's the objective of this section. So in this session, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to take an illusionary or an imaginary client, take an imaginary project requirement, and see what project requirements are there. And for the project requirement, what kind of technologies or frameworks that would be more apt, and we try to do that. Since the time available is only 25 minutes, I may not be looking at a lot of points or a lot of criteria, but I will try to cover as minimum as possible so that you get to start this and you can start looking at it in this direction. So that's my objective of this session. Though my title is a director, I don't direct movies. At least that's not what I do, and we are not into movie production. So it's just a title, right? Okay, so we'll start with a story. I'm talking to a imaginary client who is into developing legal applications for law firms in US. So these guys are in business for about the last 20 years, and they have an application developed in say Delphi or Visual Basic or Power Builder, or you name it, legacy technology. So they have an application developed in one of that, and they are very successful. They have a lot of clients, but they always wanted to move to a web-based model because the number of options or upgrades, installers, it's a pain maintaining the application. So they wanted to move to this, and also there is a new way of model business, so you can look at it and kind of get there. So they have tried this multiple times, moving to a web-based application, but they've never been successful. So now my client looks at Outlook.com and says, wow, if Microsoft can do it, why not us? We can also do something good and make it usable, right? So what is the challenge with all these traditional technologies or a legacy application? If you go to a departmental store, if you go to a local medical store, if you go to a bank, see the kind of apps that they are using, the users are using. The usability part, it's very difficult to simulate it in a web application. So it's going to be very difficult for a user to adapt to this. So that's why my client has failed in the past. Now with HTML5 and JavaScript based things, we get a good feel that okay, so there can be a lot of client-side programming that can be done. So which means that you can simulate the rich user experience, what your users are expecting, and maybe make it more adaptive, right? So that's the business context here. And since somebody has already burnt his hand, he wants to be a little bit more cautious. So he wants to say, I'm going to do enough research here, and I'm going to make sure that I do a proof, show it to my board, so that every time I go, I say I'm moving to a web application, I don't fail. This time I want to make it a real success. So that's how the story starts. So what my client is looking for, to finalize a client-side technology choice, wants to do a working application, and then move forward with the application. So this is the typical, production or somebody coming to you and asking for a choice. So how does this technology stack selection happen? If you're a developer, what do you typically do? So if you read a lot of blogs, so you kind of develop your loyalty towards one blog writer or a couple of people, and see that what they suggest. Maybe you think that that's the right way of looking at it. Maybe you go to Twitter, maybe you go to LinkedIn, maybe see what people are saying, and say okay, this seems to be a right technology. Maybe that's what I should be developing, right? This is one side of the spectrum. The other side of the spectrum is you have about say 20 developers working on 3 months, evaluating each and every single point, and then finalizing something. So ideally, if you are a developer, if you want to make a choice, you don't want to be in both sides, right? This side is also bad, that side is also bad, because you want to get some decisions very quickly. So how do we evaluate something which is structured And any technology choice you are going to make, it's always based on the business requirements, your current business requirements, right? And there's nothing right or wrong, in terms of technology. It is only based on depending on your business context, you are going to choose what is right for you. Okay. So my client has come to me and said, Prakash, let's do this. So I agreed. So I'm going to sit next to him. We are going to look at the choices and we are going to see what will suit my requirement. So that's what we are going to try, achieving it in 25 minutes, right? Probably 20 minutes. Okay. So why do we need to use a client-side JavaScript framework? JavaScript frameworks typically provide all the basic plumbing infrastructure for you to get started with your business application development. I'm not talking about all the cool stuff you guys have been seeing last 2 days. There is another side of the spectrum where people do a lot of input-intensive applications, right? Boring input-intensive applications. So what do you do for them, right? Can you ignore them completely? Or, we should do something for them as well. So, that's the thought which inspired me to, talk about this here, right? So we have decided that, okay, we are going to use a client-side framework. Okay, so now we are evaluating what options do I have here. I have a full stack framework and a non-full stack framework. What do you mean by this, Prakash? What is a full stack, non-full stack, etc. etc. So full stack is something which allows you to do end-to-end development. So say for example, you have a UI layer, you have a middle tier, you have a database layer. It allows you to do development end-to-end. So something like Meteor, right? So the advantage with any of this full stack framework is that you get to use one technology across the board. But the problem with the full stack frameworks is that it's your way, my way, or no way. So you have to use them end to end. There is no other alternate you have. So you cannot pick and choose what technologies you want to use. So we looked at it and we said, okay, probably a monolith framework like a Meteor may not be right choice. Let's continue evaluating. So we decided, okay, we will look at the other side. We have a non-full stack framework, right? So now you have macro frameworks and micro frameworks. What is this macro and micro? So we've been programming in jQuery for quite some time, right from 2006. So jQuery is kind of a macro framework, though it doesn't do end-to-end, but it tries to solve all the problems in an UI, right? So say for example, if you want to do anything in user interface, right from templating, scripting, navigation, everything is being handled by jQuery itself, right? So that's a monolith framework. Now again, if you don't like a specific piece of what jQuery provides, you can use some other engine, but you will be downloading the entire jQuery engine to your browser first time, right? So the criteria here is, what is your first time users? How many first time users are going to be there for your application? Is it an external facing application, or are you expecting a limited number of first time users, right? So I'm talking to my client says this legal application, though it's not like an external application, but I want to engage my first time users. So the first time load should be really fast, and I don't want to download 2 MB of some file which is going to take whatever time it is in the network. So we decided, okay, then this is also not going to be possible. So we have to use a micro framework, right? Because that's what is available, which are very small in size, less than 10 KB in size, and you can pick and choose. You can probably combine them together and move forward. So we have decided that, okay, for this application, we are going to take a non-full stack framework and probably a micro framework here and not a macro framework. So that's what we have decided. Okay. So now I want to get the list of micro frameworks in place. So what I do, I go to this site and start listing. So this is microjs.com, where you get the list of micro frameworks that are available. Okay. So what is your first feel? Wow, super. What is your next thought? Are these really applications or frameworks that are going to be used for developing applications, right? That's the first choice, first confusion you're going to get. Because the number of options, the more number of options you are going to have, obviously it's going to lead to something called analysis paralysis. You don't know what is good for your application, right? So though there are a lot of categories of applications and stuff like that, but still it is going to lead to that. So me and my client looked at it and said, oh my God, geez, there are so many things that are available. What should I really do now? So we then again looked at it. Not all these frameworks which are called micro frameworks are really micro frameworks there. There are a lot of libraries also there, which are called generally categorized as micro frameworks. So, an example could be, you can look at it. So the framework and library section, you have Angular, you have Ember, all Meteor, Batman falling under a framework section. Library section, you have Backbone, Knockout, etc., etc. Now, how do I make a choice? Should I use frameworks? Should I use libraries? Which one is good for me? So, again, it goes to your business requirement. What are you trying to do now? Are you trying to develop something from scratch, or are you trying to do something which is progressively enhancing your features using any of these JavaScript toolkits out there in the market, right? So, say for example, if you are using a framework is going to give you an architecture, a framework is going to give you a solution structure, and you are forced to follow that solution structure, right? So that's what we all have seen. Though, so the advantage you get is the framework does all the plumbing work for you, but what is the constraint there? You have to make sure that you are constrained within that structure. You cannot play with it with your own structure or something like that. But libraries are like, I can use it in my existing architecture. Whatever I am going to do, I'll be easily able to plug and play within my existing structure. So now I have two options. I can either go with a framework or a library because I am developing it from scratch. So now I am talking to my client. My client says, Prakash, what kind of developers do you have? So I say, I have a lot of superstars in my team. They are all superstars. They can do anything I want. Great. So one challenge with technology people is, we all like to develop frameworks. We don't like consuming frameworks. That's the reality, right? Because you are forced to follow certain rules. And me as a technical person, I always feel that I can write better code than somebody else. Reality, right? So my client says, Prakash, you have a lot of good people. Do you think it's a good option? Maybe not. Maybe I think my people might come up with a better structure. And I also want my developers to have the flexibility of playing around and making sure that they have the choice of choosing what they want to do. So we said, okay, maybe a library option is better for me. So we decided that we'll go with a library. So what options do I have? I have Backbone, Knockout, Spine, CanJS. Okay. So we decided so far. We decided that we are going to do a legal case management application, which is input intensive application. So we looked at what are all the frameworks that are available, what kind of framework we will be looking at. Do I need a framework or do I need a library? And I decided that I'm going to choose a library for this particular development. So this is my screen. Don't worry, I'm like any developer. My UI skills are really, really bad. So you can see that very well there. UI skills are really bad. But assuming that this is the application screen which I want to get, what kind of bare minimum categories I would require to get this application going. One is, I need to structure my code for sure. Yes. I need to have templates to render my views. I need a way to communicate with the data server and get the data. And whatever data I have, I need to bind the data back to my views. And I need some ways to take routing and history. So this is not a very exhaustive list in any ways. But this is the bare minimum list we are going to look, because we have only 10 more minutes or 15 more minutes to talk about it. So these are the categories I have. Okay. So I decided that I'm going to structure my code. What is the problem with JavaScript? JavaScript is like any other scripting language. Scripting languages are, when it comes to modularity, scripting languages are really notorious. They don't provide modularity by default. So we all know that. So which means that I need to structure my way in some form or shape, so that my users can be, or my application becomes modular, maintainable. I can load dependencies based on what I need. So that's my requirement. So I'm not going to do a lot of things here. I don't want to talk. So that everything is global in JavaScript. So you may end up with namespace collisions and stuff like that, which you don't want to do. So that's why you are going with a modular approach. So I looked at the options, and I feel that require.js has the best support in terms of community and stuff like that. So I will probably use require.js rather than anything else. Okay. So I have chosen that I will use require.js here. So now I have structured my code. So I need to separate concerns so that my code becomes maintainable. So I'm not talking about a small school application. I'm talking about developing an application which has 400 forms where people sit and enter day in and day out, which is a very boring application, but that's where we make most money of it. So we need to develop it for sure, right? So how do I do that? So there are multiple ways you can separate concerns. Traditionally, you can use an MVC framework, you can use an MVP framework, or you can use an MVVM, right? So I'm not going to talk about, in the interest of time, I'm not going to talk about MVP, I'm going to talk only about MVC and MVVM, right? So what this MVC framework allows you to do, it allows you to separate your presentation logic from your business logic, right? That's what it allows you to do. It doesn't do anything beyond that. But traditionally, the MVC framework has one problem. It says that, though it says that presentation logic and business logic needs to be separated, it doesn't give you any guidance on where your presentation logic should go, right? Because a high level guidance in terms of MVC is all your inputs goes to your controller, all your displays goes to view. Sure, I'm talking about a 400 forms here to be developed, which means that I'm going to have a large set of people. I don't want my logic to be leaked between my presentation and views and controller. Obviously, it's going to have a presentation logic in my controller, and I have some logic to be written in my views, which makes it my unit testability very hard. Prakash, I'm writing unit test today in MVC frameworks. The point of what is a unit testing framework is not the objective of this talk, or what is a unit testing is not the objective of this talk. We are going to talk about the unit testability, and I feel that the presentation logic is merged between these two, so it becomes slightly difficult to unit test this. So the other option I have is view models. So wherein I'm going to separate my presentation logic to view model. So my view model becomes UI agnostic, right? So which makes it much more easier for me to test. So now I'm talking to my client, I'm asking him, do you have presentation logic do you expect presentation logic to be there in your code? He says, for sure, I'm going to write a lot of presentation logic in my, I may expect, and I don't want it to be messed with my code. So I probably want to separate it in such a way that it's easier for me to unit test, my maintainability becomes better. So I don't have an option other than that. So for me now, my default choice is knockout. So I have decided that I will use a framework which supports MVVM so that my unit testability becomes much better, because I have a lot of presentation logic in my application. Okay. So now I have to choose a templating engine. So I have two options. I have a string based templating engine, I have a DOM based templating engine. So again, the story here is, do you need SEO? That's your first question. So in my legal case management application, after I log in, I'm not going to SEO for sure. So which means that DOM based engines will work wonder for me. So with DOM based engines, are you sure you cannot do SEO at all? There are some experiments that are happening in the site. So if your server side backend is JavaScript, if you are using Node.js, Node.js has something called JS DOM, and you can simulate your DOM. It's a simulator. You can simulate your DOM in the server side. DOM based engines are what your browsers are going to do in next few years. Today your browsers, your JavaScript doesn't have observability property in your JavaScript, but your next version of JavaScript submission has observability property inside your JavaScript framework. So your browsers are going to support it by default. So DOM based templating engines are polyfills for me, which is forward looking. So I'm going to be using a DOM based engine rather than a string based engine here. So I'm going to use a DOM based engine which comes naturally with Knockout. So I'm going to use that. Right? So what happens to my UI designer? Guys, you saw my UI designing skills. So if you allow me to do UI development and on 400 forms, you know what to expect there. So if you want your application to be adaptable, obviously you need UI designers to work on it. So if, whatever, whether you use a string based engine or a DOM based engine, for sure they are DSLs, right? So which means that your UI designer is not going to work on any more straightforward HTML. So you need to make sure that your UI designers kind of get to that, right? So there is some other experiment that's happening in the world. There is a template engine which I recently found out called Plates, which is a no DSL kind of template engine. So probably something of that sort might become a mainstream in the future. But at this point, you might have to know that if you are choosing a template engine, irrespective of whether it is string based or DOM based, make sure that your UI designer effort is, you have to train your UI designer also to work on this and learn that particular piece, right? So my application is input intensive, so I have less time, so I'll try to quickly run here. So my application is input intensive, so which means that I have to, whatever my view, model is going to send it to my view. My view, whenever I change it, it has to be updated in my model. So which means that I need a two-way data binding on my client side. So if you are using a MVC framework like Backbone supports only one-way binding. So probably if you are, then you have to write your own code, infrastructure code to update it back. But if you are using a something like Knockout supports two-way data binding, so it becomes natural for you. On the server-side fetch, I'm going to quickly rush through the last point here, which is that distributed data protocol. So what it means is, say Twitter, your Facebook. These are applications which are never closed. All these applications are closed when your machine is shut down, for sure, right? Otherwise, we as developers, we don't like it to be closed anytime. So what happens there? How do you get updates, right? So you can't poll every time, because if you start polling every time, which means that there's going to be a lot of bandwidth that's going to be consuming, and you need to poll every time to figure out. So there is a way to push things back to your client. So Meteor has this implementation of distributed data protocol, or you need to figure out a way to write using your HTML web sockets or socket.io or whatever that works for you. But it depends on your application, and you need to choose something which supports your application. So what we have essentially done here is, I have looked at the various options here, right? And I have tried putting, my high-level structure on how my application should look like, and what kind of technologies I'll be looking at here. I have, purposefully ignored the topic of, intentionally I did not cover the topic of routing engines because I may not have enough time to cover that. But in 25 minutes, what we have done is, we have looked at our various business requirements. We really figured out, what is my business requirement, and based on my business requirement, how do I choose the technology which is going to work for me and probably, take advantage of it, rather than on the first side, you look at based on Google or whatever it is, search your blogs, your personal opinion, you kind of do an informed decision making on how to select a framework. So yeah. So I have one last slide. I will not take more than 2 minutes. So I have a lot of this thing here, but in summary, don't make informed decisions, and that's all my objective of this talk. So look at your parameters and choose something. So if you are a developer, there is no way you can learn all these frameworks yourself. So try to get into the concept of meta learning, understand what MVC or MVVM in a meta level, and try to learn one implementation per whatever you are looking at. And try to, so that you will be able to quickly cope up, and try to build a social network so that you can learn from others. If you are an architect, you have a lot of choices to make informed decision. If you are a project manager, then you need to make sure that all these technologies are mainstream now, and you need to make sure that your developers are prepared so that you will be able to adapt to this. That's all, guys. So, yeah.
Slide you going to be up?
Yes, I'm going to put it in a slide share, this thing, and share that.
Can you just read it with
Yes, I have already uploaded it in SlideShare. So I have made some last minute corrections which I will re-upload it. Thank you guys.